Hello, hello, good evening. We are live Cantina Social Hour. Today is Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. It's one of my favorite days of the week personally because it means that there's a weekend coming up. And, Friday night, some people like to go out to the club. Some people like to go out to the bar. Some like to watch sports, whatever that is. Some people like to kick it and watch Netflix. Me, I like to hang out with really cool people that I can relate to on a toy level, on a very plastic level. And going to be the same this evening. Who better to do that with this week than Dan Larson from Toy Galaxy? Dan, how is it going?
To make sure my mic was on. I couldn't remember if I turned it off when when you cut away there. No, we're good. We're good. Hello. Thank you very, very much. Hello to everybody that's in chat and hanging out. And yeah, let's talk some Star Wars or just toys in general or wherever chat wants to go with it.
Or all of the above. Right on. Well, Dan, it's great to have you on the show. I think this is your first time on Social Hour.
Yes, I think I was on your podcast once before, but the first time here on the live stream. Yeah.
Yeah, I looked that up. It was 2018 was the first episode we did for 4 years for Cantina Chatter I'm forgetting the name of my show, Cantina Chatter Podcast. Yeah, and I think that episode was about how to be a toy collector because I think at that time I remember getting lots of questions. How do I do this? What should I focus on? Do I buy everything? Do I buy to resell? Do I buy to open? And I thought, we need a couple episodes of how to collect and, the possibilities. Obviously, there's no right or wrong answer. And you helped me to do that, to talk about, how you can be a toy collector.
It's one of those questions that definitely comes up, and I've gotten it a lot. And we had a series on the channel for a while there for I don't know how many episodes we did it, but it was basically like, here's how you start collecting this line. For me, I've been around collecting for so long that when I started, there weren't really that many options. It's like if you wanted to get into Star Wars, it's like, well, there's the vintage line, and then like 6 other figures have come out since then. It's like there wasn't a real barrier to entry on that. But the more the years go by, the more I had to really stop and say like, oh, okay, there's people who are coming to whatever, Gundam, Star Wars, Marvel, for the first time, and it has to be incredibly overwhelming to like, if you can't tell the difference between, a figure that was released in 2001 versus a figure that was released in 2010, that's a hard thing. And nobody wants to spend their money on the wrong stuff, especially in, someone just getting to collecting for the first time. So,
sure.
It definitely makes sense.
Totally. Same here. I've been buying this stuff for as long as I can remember, but if I imagine myself as somebody who is just jumping on board to Star Wars or jumping on board to Marvel Legends or jumping on board to, Kenner, Real Ghostbusters or whatever, like you can just imagine like how daunting that would be. There's hundreds upon hundreds of, any of these lines. And just to get started on something like that, like, yeah, I'm glad I'm not in that position.
No, I just watched the Netflix Ultraman series, the Netflix animated series there, and there's not that many episodes. Season 1 is like 8 or 10, maybe 8 episodes, I think. Season 2 is like 6 episodes. So I burned through that in like 2 days. But I was like, oh man, I really want to get some figures from this. I really enjoyed it. It's not great, but I had fun with it. It's superhero stuff. It's basically like Iron Avengers, but I was like, well, where do I start? Where do I start with what's been released? How much are they? What are the different, there's model kits, there's figures, there's really nice figures. So I did, I reached out to my pal D Amazing. I knew he was going to have I had seen him post pictures of those figures. So so I had to do the same thing. I had to say, I'm a new collector to this series, and where do I start?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's always interesting. There are always those lines that you come into and, they've already been going on, even if it's something that's only a few months old and you've already missed a couple of waves, which, nowadays that's not really a thing because it's so spaced out between waves in a lot of cases. But yeah, no, I've also jumped on board into things, and I've had to ask some of my friends that are coming here into the chat about, hey, tell me a little bit about this. Like, did I miss something? Is there a difference between this and this?
Well,
Um,
and the cost is incredibly prohibitive, especially now. In the last couple of years, prices have just
yeah.
shot up all across the board. Hasbro takes a lot of flack because they have so many popular licenses, but
Mm,
prices are up all over the place as far as toys are concerned. So nobody wants to accidentally spend $80 or something on the wrong piece when you could find out you could have just spent
sure.
20 on something, or you could have gotten a you know I I was looking at GameStop stuff like yesterday, and I'm like, well, I feel like a dummy buying these, brand new figures for $25-$30 a piece, and now they're on sale for 12-15 bucks. Like,
Right.
if somebody's been doing it for a little longer, you can say, hey, if you really want to grab that figure, just wait like 3 months. You're going to see it on sale at some point. Make your dollar
That's
stretch a
true.
little further.
That's true. Or it could be the other thing where you buy something and then they decide to repackage it like a month later.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And there's just those are things that as someone who has been collecting for a while, as someone who has made mistakes a few times, bought the wrong stuff, bought the wrong repaint, whatever, thought you had something that you didn't have. I mean, I've definitely purchased figures. My one of my biggest eBay flubs was early 2000s when the Masters of the Universe, like the 2000X line, was out there. That sort of rebooted era of Masters of the Universe. I had missed one of the figures, Stratos, somebody, I don't know. And the prices had gone up on the secondary market. And I was like, oh man, I really wish I'd gotten that. The only one that was really available affordably was the repaint. And I didn't want the repaint. I wanted the original one. So I hopped on eBay and I'm scrolling through eBay and I see one and it's super cheap. It's like $10. And I'm like, oh my God, this person must have put it up like accidentally or something, but I don't care. I'm going to buy it. Too bad for them. And so I click buy it now, ship it in, whatever. And when I get it in, it's a minifigure. It's like this big.
Mm.
I'm like, oh no, that explains the price. And I should have read the whole listing and been more careful about what I was buying.
It happens. I've done things like that before. There's one that I always see come up on when it comes to eBay. I'm sure you're aware of the Kenner Swamp Thing line, and one of the figures they did was the color change Swamp Thing, and the first version they did had the green that went all the way down his arms and down his torso, and then they quickly changed it so that the green was just on his shoulders and upper torso. And every now and then you'll see one pop up on eBay for $20 and people will snag it because they know what they're looking for, but the seller doesn't necessarily.
Yeah.
But then other times you'll see one listed for like $200 and it'll still sell. So it's just kind of wild.
Yeah, exactly. Buyer beware, and you got to do your research and know what you're looking at before you spend that money. And it's always nice when you can reach out to somebody and say, hey, am I doing the right thing here?
Yep. Got to do your research.
There's too many fakes and just people trying to make a quick easy buck, especially when those prices start to spike on things.
Mm.
I just was going through some of my Marvel Legends earlier today, and um, when Toy Biz was doing the Marvel Legends, they did the Ares Build-A-Figure. I think it was like a Walmart exclusive wave, and for years, if you missed that, for years, that figure complete was like $250. It was ridiculous. And I managed to, I got to that line, that figure very, very late. And I managed to put it together and trading and selling stuff and birthday presents and whatever. And I finally completed the figure. And at that point, the knockoffs had really started to hit the market. So the prices were starting to come down, starting to come down, starting to come down. And then Hasbro reissues that figure as a repaint, as a single figure for Thor Ragnarok, or the first Thor movie, whatever it was. I don't remember what wave it was. And now that original Build-A-Figure goes for like $25 complete. It is 1/10 of the price it was, 10 years ago. But
Yeah.
but you have to pay attention. Am I buying an original? Am I buying an import, a knockoff import? Even at $10, you still want to be careful with what you're getting.
Yeah. If you're going to like AliExpress sometimes, like you don't know exactly what it's going to be. And, even like on eBay, there's a lot of stuff coming from Singapore, China, that's like NECA, or, it looks like it's like the actual thing, but then, it's oftentimes, after hours production runs or, whatever it
Yeah, and
is
if
that they
you
do.
know that that's what you're getting and that's what you're spending your money on, it's fine.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So I want to take a look and see who is with us this evening so far. So TCS, thanks for coming in. Good to see you. I got Jacob in the house. Hey, Jacob, how's it going? We have Greg. Greg, how you doing? Great to see you, friend. Seth, thanks for being here with us this evening. We got Darth Clueless. How you doing, Darth Clueless? Paul, good to see you again. Thanks for hanging out with us. We got Dan O in the house. Dan O, how's it going? Looking forward to seeing you very soon. Justin, how you doing? Good to see you as well. Adam is with us. And we have Jurassic Dave 93. Dave, how's it going? Britt is with us this evening. How you doing, Brittany? Aaron, thinking you're dipping into Mafex. And we got Ryan Laserpants in. I thought Ares was a Hasbro.
It probably was.
Yeah, I don't know. That's outside of my my general scope of Marvel Legends. I'm very casual with them. And then yeah, I love toy shows. Cool. Well, we love toy shows too. And you know, what better to do on a Friday night than talk some toys? I definitely need it this week. Rough week, rough week. And then Josh is with us as well. Cool. Good little crowd forming in here. So Dan, can you describe the toy industry in one sentence? The toy industry of 2022 in one sentence.
Overwhelming. Oversaturated. That's probably a better description. Oversaturated. As far as you know, collectibles intended for adult collectors is concerned. That's for sure.
Yes, there are many options. It doesn't matter what you like. You know, you like Hot Toys, okay. You like vintage collection, you like, you know, 6-inch, you know, anything bigger, like there's 10 scale stuff. Those really weird scales that like, well, you know, why would you collect that? But, you know, a lot of people do, and that's, you know, good for them. There's Lego stuff. There's all kinds, there's dolls, there's everything. And that's before you even get into the more tertiary things like lunch boxes and, you know, like poppets and, you know, random little things that come up.
Well, it's a unique period in this whole toy collecting thing, action figure industry, where, you know, licenses are more readily available, and I have to assume more affordable for different toy companies than they ever have been. You know, in the 80s and the 90s, Hasbro would not have thought to license out GI Joe to anybody else, you know, Transformers to anybody else. Playmates wouldn't have let anybody touch the Ninja Turtles, you know. But at this point, the action figure market just isn't what it was. You know, none of these companies can move the units that they used to move. You know, when you see those pictures or videos of, you know, toy aisles in the 80s and the 90s, even into the early 2000s, just, you know, 15 figures deep on a peg, you know, and just this wall full of carded stuff, just aisles packed with boxed stuff. It's just, it's not like that anymore. They can't move those kinds of units. So you start to see these licenses spread around. You know, how many companies are doing Ninja Turtles right now? It's ridiculous. How many, like between, you know, Super 7 and, you know, Hasbro's doing GI Joe, Super 7's doing GI Joe, Reaction and Ultimates. You just, the licensors are getting oversaturated, and there's just too many options. So even if you're focusing on one thing, you still have a lot of different choices in there. And because they're just not moving as many units, the prices are all going up. So it's just, it is a very difficult time. It's simultaneously like this golden age of action figure collecting, where almost anything you could possibly want to exists, but it's coming at you from every direction, and the prices are insane.
It's such an interesting time because that's totally true. I mean, you have all these manufacturers doing very similar things, but then it's not like you can go to the toy store and, like you're saying, you know, the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, just see like walls of 15, you know, figure peg deep, you know, shelves. It's a very interesting thing. And I think that speaks a lot to who the actual like audience for a lot of this product is.
Yeah, no, it has absolutely shifted, and I can't really predict what the near or far future are going to be as far as this industry is concerned. But I think all indicators is that, to me, this is very much a sort of last. We're on the tail end of this era. I think the younger generations, not all, there's still definitely some kids that are into toys and action figures and stuff, but it doesn't have the complete coverage of that sort of, you know, 5 to 10-year-olds that it used to have. I think a lot of that, you know, play real estate and that imagination real estate is occupied by, you know, gaming systems, computer PC games, you know, all that kind of stuff.
No, that's a really good point. A lot of the people making these toys these days are the people that grew up buying the original stuff, and same with the people collecting it. You know, like I was around in the late 80s and 90s and buying, the real Ghostbusters and TMNT and, all that stuff. And it's huge. All that stuff's really big right now. And it's just, I hadn't really thought about it the way you're describing it, though, that we're kind of on the tail end of riding that wave. But eventually it will, I think it, like you're saying, it will catch up. There will be a point at which, those people have moved on to greener pastures, whether they're making the toys or collecting them for the most part, with some exceptions, of course.
Yeah,
And then it'll shift.
I don't have a real I haven't really studied and I don't have the expertise to address the generalities of the child psychology and how kids play and what kids play with and how that's evolved over the years. The this sort of action figure era goes back to at the earliest maybe the mid to late 60s, more likely mid 70s. With your 12-inch GI Joe and Big Jim and all that stuff, Bionic Man. But what that started, we're pretty much at the end of that now. The
Yeah.
technologies and the way, like I said, the way kids play and what they actually play with is evolving, and it's changing with the technology. And it's not wrong and it's not bad. And like I said, there are people I'm sure who have done studies and written scientific papers about what different kinds of play develops, imagination and constructive intelligence, what am I trying to say, like hands, the finger control, all that stuff, those kinds of abilities in kids. What is the computer doing that figures used to do?
Hmm.
It's just changed, and that's just the progression of time and technology, and
Sure.
it is what it is.
And the lack of Saturday morning cartoons.
Yeah, I mean, why would there even be Saturday morning cartoons anymore? It's like television and the way that we consume, media has completely shifted. If anybody tried to put together a block of Saturday morning cartoons now, the way that it used to be, it would fail because you can't synchronize everybody's viewing anymore. The closest we can
Right.
get to that is, oh, a new episode of Obi-Wan is coming out soon, and it's going to premiere at 3 a.m. on Disney Plus.
Yep.
For me, 3 a.m. for me,
Yeah.
midnight for you. And that's the closest we can really get to like, or live events, live sports,
Sure.
live anything like that. That's the closest we can get to these sort of shared community, media consumption experiences that
Yeah.
Saturday morning cartoons used to be.
No, that's true. I have looked at this like informally. I teach 8 and 9 year olds, and I always talk to them about what they're buying. And last time I polled them, half of them preferred toys to games, and then the other half preferred games to toys. And I was thinking back to when I was a kid, and it would have been 100% probably that would have said they preferred, at that age anyway, preferred toys. Um, so I mean, even if I can use that as just a very general, like obviously non-scientific, like metric for kids that are buying toys, if I could say 50% of kids are buying the toys that compared to 20-30 years ago, like that's a
Yeah.
huge chunk of people that aren't buying them
Yeah.
anymore.
Well, and I, having been a kid who, had video game systems, and, we started off with an Atari 2600, which, at the time was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But when Nintendo came out, when the Nintendo Entertainment System came out, it was a magnitude beyond what Atari was capable of. And it was like, that felt like you had real live arcade style games, in the house. And why would you want to do anything else other than that? You used to spend $10, at a stop at the arcade. Now you've got a free video game system at home. I didn't pay for it. My parents paid for it, and you can just play as much as you want. So I don't blame any kid for saying, here I have this action figure, but over here I have this video game system that looks like real life. These are photorealistic graphics, or this is incredibly smooth animation, or this is just a fun immersive game that I can play for 40 hours and not get to the end of it. It's what I would, if I was in that kid's position, I would make the same choice. It's just the
Sure.
quality of the games and the game systems, it doesn't compare to what was out 20-30 years ago.
No, it doesn't. It's wild. Like, I was visiting my parents. They live in Texas, a couple months ago, and My mom was going through some of my old things. I have some stuff at their house, and they're always like, "You need to take these someday. You need to get these out of the house." And she found my old Game Boy, like from like 1991 or
Nice.
something. It's one of the green ones. It was green, like when they first started making them. Like the console wasn't color, but they were still like the games weren't color. They were still
Right. Yeah,
green.
yeah. Just
And
just the body itself.
yeah. And she's like, I guess I'm gonna throw this. I'm like, no, no, don't throw that out. I'm gonna keep that.
No,
And she's like, well, what are you gonna do with it? I'm not gonna. She's like, you're not gonna play with it, are you? I'm like, no, but I can't. You can't get rid of
maybe.
that. I might. Yeah, that's cool. Don't get rid of that. So, but yeah, just like how far things have come. Like kids today, maybe they take an interest in something like that, but when they have everything that looks the way that it does now, it's kind of hard to fathom them choosing a Game Boy over what's out there today.
Yeah, and there's just so many more options just in general for what to do, what to play with. Having a tablet or having a gaming system or a PC or anything doesn't even necessarily mean playing games. It could be drawing, it could be
Hmm.
other activities, it could just be interactive stuff. And from a toy perspective, we were just saying how the toy market is so oversaturated for adult collectibles, but it's oversaturated for kid stuff as well. There's just so many different choices out there for what to do. Is it the same kinds of choices we had as kids, where it's like there's action figures, there's remote control stuff, there's board games, there's Lego, but there's just so many other choices beyond that, and so many different licensed properties. And
Yeah,
it's hard to break through all the noise.
it
I think
is.
in general, kids are kids, and for the most part, they like the same kinds of stuff. It's just what form did those activities take now versus the
Sure.
form that they took 25 years ago?
Definitely. Toys have a lot of competition these days. There's just so much that, wasn't even like I couldn't have when I was a kid, if you would have told me about the internet and everything you could do with it and streaming and, like cell phones and tablets, like I'd be like, whoa, 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 that sounds like sci-fi. Like that's like really out there.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's like
Well,
the
hedgehog
reality
action there, and
now.
the hedgehog action in the comments there. Mostly kids want to watch random YouTube videos. Yeah, yeah,
That's
that's
true.
right.
That is true. Somehow or another, they found my channel recently. Like, how'd you guys find my channel? Um, yeah, so yeah, must have just been random like videos coming up. Um, Yeah, it's so interesting how things have evolved. And I guess we'll continue to see that evolution, huh? I mean, everything changes over time, everything progresses. Sometimes we like those changes, sometimes we don't, but all we can really do is adapt.
Yeah, yeah, and fortunately, the existing toy companies are pretty much targeting us directly right now with action figures and stuff. So enjoy it while it lasts.
Totally. So I think I have a general sense of what your thinking is on this because I believe you tweeted on it recently, but plastic free packaging, that this has been a big discussion. This is something that a lot of people are taking issue with. Some don't care one way or the other. Can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on this concept of moving towards plastic free packaging?
So what I think is best for me is not necessarily what's best for all collectors. I fully applaud Hasbro, especially for taking this, less or no plastic initiative. It is ironic, yes, to say, oh, they're really trying to get rid of, the plastic packaging to package their plastic action figures in. It's like, you can't change the material that the actual thing that's being sold is made out of. So I do appreciate that as someone who is watching, the climate continue to shift in a bad direction. I appreciate that them taking that step. That is a lot of plastic that they can take out of the sort of cycle of products and trash and consumerism and all of this. I have joked, and obviously chat's picked up on it. I've joked in the past that you can ship that thing to me in a brown paper bag. I don't care. Yes, I want it to get to me safely. But in this era of pre-ordering anything anyway, I don't get to pick to see like, oh, are the eyes okay? Are the paint apps all right? Is everything included? I'm pretty confident, when something ships to me from Pulse or even Amazon or whatever, that it's not going to be the wrong figure. And if it is, I got to take the steps to, remedy that. I am not
Mhm.
an in-package collector. I know that you have had a lot of issues trying to get unbroken cards
Oh my
boxes and
gosh.
stuff. So
Yeah.
that doesn't bother me personally. So I appreciate that they're doing it, but I am curious to see how it plays out with sales, with theft, shrink in retail terminology, and yeah, how are in package collectors going to react to that? It is. obviously in the peak of the 80s, there were lots of toys that were sold with no plastic on the outside. You know, if you collect vintage Kenner Star Wars vehicles and play sets, there is no plastic on that packaging. You know, you don't know what's in that box for real. You know, I've seen the, you know, x-rays of the mailer boxes, the white mailer boxes, and they x-ray it to make sure, is this a regular Boba Fett, is this a rocket firing Boba Fett, you know, what's in this package. So there's a history there. There's precedent for no plastic packaging where you just have to appreciate the box art. But that is mostly like play sets and vehicles and stuff. It's not really individual figures. So
Sure.
I'll be curious to see how the market reacts and how Hasbro reacts to the market reaction. You know.
Yeah, it's that's the big one. I think, for me, obviously, that's the huge one, the vintage collection. I mean, I'm not, for the most part, I'm not a package collector. Like I've always, you got to it's great. It's great. I love packaging when it's catchy and looks awesome. That's incredible. But, I like to appreciate the actual toy. But when it comes to like the vintage collection, I said this in the last stream, the vintage collection is the vintage collection because it's the vintage collection. And if you mess around with that recipe, you end up with new Coke. You don't know what's going to happen. It could be something that people continue to buy. It could be something that you lose 50% of sales because people are buying one to open, one to keep carded, like me. Sometimes additional ones just have backups and such. So it's a little scary, honestly, because I think we all want to see toys remain healthy, and we want to see these industries continue in some form. And my friend Chris from Bantha School wrote an article recently about his analysis of the whole situation and how it could potentially affect the vintage collection. And he suspects that TVC has basically been kind of on life support since it came back in 2018. It's kind of been going a little stronger over the last couple of years, but those gains could be easily lost if this transition is made and it does end up having detrimental impact. And I guess there has been polling on this through the Vintage Collection Facebook group, really, really big TVC Facebook group, and also SWTVC on Instagram has done polling on this. And I mean, obviously, you're only targeting Star Wars TVC collectors when you do these polls, and not all collectors go on the internet and go to social media and vote on stuff. But just based on those sample sizes, it sounds like a lot of people are going to at least cut back quite a bit.
Sure.
So that, for me, that's a little bit scary. Just imagining that the line could just totally disappear because sales don't continue to be strong enough to warrant the existence of some of these lines.
Yeah, and there are geopolitical factors that play into all this. One of the pushes in the late 70s into the early 80s for figures going to the 4-inch scale to begin with was the oil embargo of the late 70s and the price of the materials that it takes to make plastic, to make action figures. One of the drivers of moving from a 12-inch action figure down to there was a sort of transitional era of G.I. Joe that nobody talks about, Super Joe, where he was more of like a 6-inch kind of figure. And then, you get to the 4-inch with Star Wars and Real American Hero. But part of that was the cost of the materials. And I think we're seeing that happening again today, where the cost of the material cost is getting so expensive that Hasbro keeps pushing that price up and pushing that price up. And could they survive on a $25 figure instead of 33? Possibly, but the reality of the pricing is what it is. And I think a lot of collectors are starting to say, okay, I was kind of on the fence at 25, but you're hitting 30 and I'm out. And so I'm curious to see if Hasbro is going to react to that, if things continue to progress the way that they are, if in a year or 2 or 3 years we start to see this shift of collectors moving back down to 1/18th, across the board.
Yeah, and even those are rising in price, like $15, I think, is what the later this year for a 3 3/4 inch figure. That's almost what a Black Series figure was, a year and a half ago. So it's wild.
Absolutely.
We'll see. Other than TVC, I'm 100% okay with them completely doing away with blister cards on anything else. That's just the one thing that worries me because it is kind of like my personal focus, and I have a lot of adoration.
And it's interesting because I don't know. Do you buy any import lines? Do you buy any import action figures?
Yes.
they're not concerned at all about the amount of plastic that's in the
No,
packaging. Like,
no.
I've bought some of the Joy Toy, action figures, and those that literally 100% of the package is plastic. And some Bandai figures like Robot Spirits Gundam and stuff. It's like or even Mafex or Figuarts or those. It's like plastic tray with plastic stuff, and then there's a plastic cover, and sometimes there's a second plastic tray under that, and then a plastic
Mhm.
cover on top of that, and then a window on the. It's just it doesn't care. Nobody cares. So
Yeah,
it's almost
that's true.
unfair that Hasbro is being held to this standard or holding themselves to this standard, and their competitors aren't.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you said. It's admirable that they, have the environmental impact of all this plastic waste, in their minds. I think there are ways to do it without touching absolutely everything, and I think, TVC is a good example of something that already uses very minimal plastic. There's not the blisters on there are really small. I mean, you compare that to like most other toys, and there is more plastic generally speaking these days. So I kind of wish they would have used it as a benchmark to say, hey, we're going to cut back on plastic. Look how awesome this looks. This is our goal, or better. And then, you just get rid of it all and everything else, and then that
Yeah.
remains. But I guess they kind of closed themselves off from that by saying
Well, and I
all
don't
plastic.
know, we've seen that there doesn't, and I don't understand why. I've never worked for Hasbro or any of these big toy companies or anything. So we've seen that there doesn't seem to be a lot of talking between teams. The Star Wars team doesn't really seem to talk to the G.I. Joe team, doesn't seem to talk to Marvel Legends, because there's different strategies there. And you go like, if Marvel Legends can do this, why can't Star Wars do this? Why can't some of these things that seem successful in one line work across why is the whole company rolling that out? So what we're also seeing different approaches to the no plastic packaging. Marvel Legends is just like, they're just in a box now. Transformers some of them are just in a box, and some of them have that no plastic window opening where you can actually like touch the figure,
Right.
or steal it, as people have been doing.
Yeah.
So I'm curious if there is more of a sort of umbrella approach to how they're gonna, just trying to figure out what approaches work right now, as far as what kind of packaging they can put out there that people are still going to respond to and spend the same amount of money on.
Totally. I feel like with like 99% of toy lines, you can do that. You can get away with plastic-free packaging. It's just like these ones that like concern themselves with being, nostalgic and, speaking very specifically to something from the past, that it kind of, it kind of is self-defeating to do away with that aspect of it, but
And there's this mentality of the collector, right? Like, collecting in a package is one thing, but collecting collector packaging is a different thing. I was going through, like, I consider myself an opener. I open my stuff, I throw the boxes away, but in doing a collection cleanup over the last couple of days and reorganizing and moving stuff around and whatever, I have this like this massive stack of boxes. I'm like, why do I have all these boxes? I'm an opener. I throw this stuff away. And it's because some of the boxes are just too nice. And I don't, I can't throw them away. Like, you don't collect G.I. Joe Classified at all, right?
no, I don't.
The initial Snake Eyes that they put out, Pulse exclusive, came in this like
Yeah, big.
incredibly
Mhm.
fancy box with embossed graphics and the sketch inside and the foam packaging inside the tray, all this other stuff. And I'm like, I haven't touched that box since I took Snake Eyes out of it, but I still have that box because I can't get rid of it. So there is sort of this mentality that still persists about trying to make these premium items that you can charge premium prices for, that still have a lot of material in them. And I don't know if that's going to change.
Yeah. I guess we'll see. What one always bothered me was the Diamond Select, like the comic figures that they do. Like the whole thing is just like a big block of plastic, and then you have this little figure in there. Like, what's up with
Yeah,
that?
yeah. It doesn't, and then like even the smallest, flimsiest figure in that line would have the same giant clamshell box. Yeah,
Yeah.
ridiculous.
And then they had a million zip ties that you had to undo, and
Yeah, yeah. McFarlane was notorious for that as well.
yes. All right, we'll see what happens. I mean, all we can really do, I guess, is monitor the situation and see, what transpires. I always, at this point in my life, I always kind of, from time to time anyway, I think about, will I be collecting like this in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years? And I don't know. I mean, I always feel like the day that it's no longer fun for me, the day that I'm not getting any enjoyment out of it, maybe that's the time that I just quit and look for something that does make me happier. But
Yeah. Yeah.
that's
You have to refresh. You have to be aware of what your actual interests are, and the both the financial value of what you're buying and just the emotional, the satisfaction are like, I'm all set. I am exhausted by being in this constant state of pre-orders. I hate it. I'm done with it. I don't want to do it this way anymore. I know that
amen.
I don't really have any choice because my physical locations just don't stock anything, but to be 2-3 years out on like, pre-order, like pipeline reveal. Oh no, when am I going to see this? 2023, 2024? Like, is that when this figure's coming out? It really takes the focus off of what I have now, the things I have now. Because in some cases, it's a year. I've been living with this figure in my head for a year, and now I finally have it in my hands. And like the day I get it, I'm like, boy, I'm already tired of this thing. Like I already feel like I already had it, and I just got it, and now I don't care about it anymore. And I don't want to be there with the stuff that I'm buying. Like I want to actually, appreciate it and enjoy it. And part of what I've been doing recently is really reassessing my collection and saying, what of this stuff do I really, really want to have on display? And how can I sort of use that to curate and be more deliberate about my collection going forward? I don't
Mhm.
want to constantly have 85 pre-orders, like that. I'm just waiting for them to come in, and then they'll come in, and that number never goes down. It's like 5 come in, I pre-ordered 5 more, 5 come in, I pre-ordered 5 more. It's
Right.
it's a weird thing to have to deal with as a collector now. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like you can't stop because they've already signed you up for so far into the future. It's like, where do you finally draw the line and say, I'm not doing this
Mhm.
anymore?
Yeah, and I think you've done that. You talked about this on your channel before, that every now and then you go through this phase where you kind of reassess your collection and kind of clear things out and try to focus. And I try to do this too. I struggle so much with this because I'm like, I don't love this as much as I love that, but I remember the day I got it and it was a good day and like I can't really part with it.
That's one of the really, really hard parts. I was just talking about my Aries, Build-A-Figures. I have both of them. I have the original one that was the Build-A-Figure that was really expensive, and there's a story in my completing that figure. Oh, the arm came from this, and my wife bought the leg over here, and this was a birthday present. The other one was just like, I went to Target and I bought it, you know? But I like the newer figure more than I like the older figure. So the newer figure, if I'm just looking at it at a superficial level, which figure do you like more? I like the newer figure more, but the old figure has the better story. And so it's like,
Yes.
I got to get rid of one of them. Which one am I getting rid of? And that's tough because so many of the pieces I have do have a story behind them.
Yeah, that's it. It's super rough. And then, that's not even, like you're tying it into to family and people, like I have things that I remember my mom bought me and it's like, okay, well, they repainted it 10 years later and it looks so much better. Can I get
That,
rid
you
of
know what?
it?
Honestly, that's what kind of pulled me away from Black Series. Was I had already I was in from Wave 1, 2013. The only thing I didn't get initially out of the gate was that San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Boba Fett, which killed me because it had the Han and Carbonite. And that was the only way to get the Han and Carbonite for like 10 years till they issued it by itself.
Mm,
But that was a line I was in from the beginning. So I get reissuing figures for collectors, especially when secondary values had gone up. So the archive line is great. I love that. I'm glad it happened. What I didn't like was technology got better, and the facial printing technology got better, and so all the face paint apps looked way better. And so I don't blame Hasbro for reissuing figures with better paint jobs, but as a collector, I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this again. I'm not rebuying all of these figures and just having like duplicates. I'm not a customizer, so I'm not going to get anything
mm.
out of them. Everybody is going to be on eBay trying to sell the original versions, so there's going to be no value in them. And I'm just not doing this. So I basically, I really, really, really scaled back on my Black Series. I bought more. I think I bought 4 Black Series figures this year, and I was surprised because I didn't think I'd even bought that many so far.
Right on. Yeah, Black Series is one that, spiraled out of control for sure. It started off like, okay, like I like when it started in 2013, I was thinking, all right, so they're focusing on this is before the sequel trilogy, obviously, which we knew was coming at the time, but it was just, a few characters, and the waves were, I think, a little spread apart. And but then, The Force Awakening comes out, and then they're making Constable Zuvio and all these other things that, you didn't even ever thought you would need, and then repainting them, repacking them, and tweaking little things on them, like the archive versions and such. Um, yeah, I guess that's the nature of the hobby.
Well, Black Series, when they started it, it was supposed to be like a premium line, like almost like Super 7 Ultimates. It was supposed to be this choice line of the best possible thing they could do with that figure at the time. And it commanded a very premium price, like $20 per figure. When those came out, that was high. Like 4 figures in wave 1, and I remember being in a place where I was like, I can't go all in on this line. I can't afford to. Wave 1, I bought X-Wing Luke and passed on the rest of it because I was like, there's no way I can go home and if my wife finds out I'm spending $20 per figure in 2013, there's no way I can do that. I won't be able to get away with that. And so, I ended up ultimately getting all of wave 1 through, I got a gift card for Christmas and, some money for my birthday or whatever. And so I ultimately did get the entire line, but that was a big deal. And I think the industry shifted with Black Series, with Marvel Legends, and with that 6-inch scale, where that just became standard. $20 for a figure just became the standard 6-inch action figure. You get like an accessory or two, whatever. And then we really started to see that they weren't these amazing, ultimate versions of figures anymore. It was just like, it's just a 6-inch figure for $20, and that's just what they are now. I feel like they could be more premium, but that's not what the line is anymore. If you want your
Right.
premium action figures, you go for your imports.
Yeah, totally. All right, let's take a look at the comments and see what folks are saying in here. So Justin says, I think the toy hunt is more exciting than getting the toy. It's like I got it, mark it off, and now on to the next one. So, yeah, I mean, the toy hunt has always been an exciting pursuit. I don't think it's as exciting as it used to be personally, because 99% of the time I don't find anything. Of course, I'm in San Diego. I know I have a lot of competition around here because, I mean, there's just so many people buying toys here. But yeah, like back in the 90s, Power of the Force 2 or something, like going in, finding the whole brand new wave on the shelf. That was cool.
Yeah, I think the hunt has kind of shifted. It's not so much about let's go hit 7 targets in a day to see if we can find this figure or 2 of this figure, whatever. I think it's really more about if you're doing vintage lines, if you're doing stuff that has already been out for a couple years, even if you can go to shows, if you can go to flea markets or yard sales or auctions or whatever, to be able to hunt stuff that way, and that I think you still can get that thrill of chasing the stuff down and crossing the things off your
Mhm.
list.
Sure.
Yeah,
And I
placing 25 pre-orders doesn't
Yeah.
it doesn't
And you know what? I think that's kind of what's replaced the competitiveness of the hunt. Now it's the competitiveness of who can get the pre-order in 30
I
seconds
hate it.
before it sells out.
I hate it. I'll just give up. I'll be the first one to give up and say, I don't care. Take it. I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't want to play these games.
it's unbelievably hard. um, Pico B1 says, I would prefer the focus be on the actual product than a nifty looking box or package. And yeah, overall, I think I would agree with that. The actual figure obviously is really probably what you're buying it for. Some lines, the packaging is part of the product, or so the companies claim. But there's all kinds of stuff. Seth says that Dan's Why I Sold My Collection. Not sure that was the actual title. Was the first toy collecting video I ever watched. Revisit it once a year when I want to do
Good.
some pruning.
Good. Yeah. Hey,
Very nice.
Greg and I just today were talking about, because I was expressing a lot of this stuff. Greg and I had a little on vacation meeting today, and I was talking about some of this stuff where I was like, man, I just the quantity of stuff. When I did my top 10 of 2021, and in these booth videos, I put every single figure that I bought that year, that came out that year, that I bought. And I was like, oh my God, they don't even fit. There's so many figures. I cannot believe I bought this much stuff this year. And that keeps happening, year over year over year. And that's not everything I'm buying. I'm also buying vintage stuff, and I'm picking up things, and people are giving me some things here and there and whatever. And you have to prune that stuff back. I don't have unlimited space. I only have so many bins and shelves and whatever. So yeah, I'm in this, constant state, as I talk about in that video, of saying, what can I afford to keep? What do I want to keep? What makes me happy? And it's real hard, especially being in a position where you're a public persona, you have a YouTube channel and all this other stuff. And there is pressure as a collector to be like, well, if people find out I got rid of this, what are they going to think? And it's like, well, I don't want to keep a thing just because I think somebody else is going to think I'm not a real collector or anything anymore. So see you later.
That's a weird part of it. It's like, oh, are you collecting that? Okay, then I should collect it. Just, it's weird.
Yeah.
Justin makes a really good comment here. The pre-orders need to be in complete waves, would help and keep the true release dates easier to budget. And that's a huge thing. I think would go a long way in making things easier. I really detest this piecemeal way of pre-ordering stuff. You order one figure and then you see like just also includes 2 times blank, 1 times blank, 1 times blank. It's like, just put the whole case on there. I mean,
that part of the industry certainly has not shifted to the way people are buying and collecting stuff now.
Yeah, I know Super 7 does it. They put the whole thing, tell you what you're going to get. So, I mean, oh well. Star Club, even if you die, your account will be paying off pre-orders. I've thought about this. Has crossed my mind, like, for goodness forbid, one day I just disappeared for some reason. My husband for years to come is going to be getting vintage collection and hot toys that are coming out in a year, 2 years, and yeah, hopefully that doesn't happen. But I have thought about this.
Yeah. No, hey, it's a morbid thought. I don't like to think about it, but when watching the Pulse event or Star Wars Friday or whatever it is, and it's like, yeah, this figure's slated for late 2023. It's like, that's too far away. I don't want to talk about the end of 2023 right now or first quarter 2024. No,
definitely not. Bill says, I wonder what Dan's toy line focus is these days.
I don't really have a focus. There's too many things I'm interested in, and that's part of the problem. There's too many lines I collect. I buy Power Rangers stuff. I buy Gundam stuff. I buy G.I. Joe stuff. I'm all over the place. So I'm really trying to be more, the best word I've been using for myself is deliberate, more deliberate with the things that I'm buying. Like, Earthrise Optimus Prime came out, I think, 2 years ago. And then there was the Bumblebee movie version of Optimus Prime Studio Series. And those 2 Optimus Primes for me, I was like, okay, I think I'm done with Optimus Prime. I think those 2 versions are so good for me and for what I want out of a figure like that I don't think I'm going to need to buy an Optimus Prime for the rest of, hopefully, my collecting life. NECA's movie Turtles, the SDCC pack that came out, I was like, okay, that's it for me for Turtles. I don't need, those are my ideal versions of the Turtles. Those figures are great. I don't need to collect Turtles anymore. So anything I can get to where I can kind of say, I think I'm all set with that. Captain America, I want to get every single Captain America figure that exists. And up until the first Avenger movie came out, that was a realistic thing. But now it's just like, there's like 25, 50 different figures every year. I can't keep up. But I picked up the 80th anniversary. It's the like Alex Ross Captain America figure, which was I think that was 2 years ago as well. And I think that's I'm done with Captain America, because I haven't ordered any Captain Americas since then. So I'm trying to get to this place where I can say, that's my ideal version. That's the one I'm going to have on the shelf. And I can avoid having to buy any more variations of it that come out. And I might even be able to get rid of some of the ones I already have, especially if they're a little too similar. Captain America is a tough example because I've always really liked that character. And, it's like, well, I need my MCU cap, and then I need my Shield strike suit MCU cap, and I need Worthy cap. Well, and then I need to keep my Secret Wars cap, and I need to keep my Mego cap. And, just, there's just too many there.
It's hard, and like even just selling and like culling from the collection is difficult because it's like, I mean, whether you're selling like on eBay or wherever, it's like it's time consuming. You got to ship it. You got to go to the place to have it shipped. You got to hope there's no issues along the way from when you ship it to when it arrives to whoever is getting it. It's
Mm-hmm,
just
mm-hmm.
so I'm trying be more focused with my own collecting and be a little bit more target more of my stronger interests rather than being all over the place. Which I like a lot of things. I can't help it. I like a lot of things,
Yeah, I'm
but
always happy when a new line starts, when Classified started. I'm always happy when they introduce a figure very early on that I just have no interest in, because then that breaks me from having to be a completist.
mhm.
The deeper I go into a line where I've got every single piece, I'm like, oh no.
Yeah, totally. Vaslov says Hasbro is mad at Black Series and its collectors. How dare they not back the Rancor? I don't think Hasbro is necessarily mad with their collectors. It probably should be more mad at their own uh, lack of ability of reading the room in the instance of the Rancor. But
That was a weird campaign.
and yeah, we're never gonna get that Rancor keeper. I know, they said, oh yeah, it was coming anyway, so we're putting it in with the Rancor. We're never gonna get that. There's no way.
Like we don't know what restrictions they were under, what that team was under. I really, really, really get the impression that team that we were seeing on camera talking about it wanted to say more. They wanted to tell us more about what they couldn't do, about why they weren't doing the things that seemed very, very obvious, and just weren't allowed to talk about it. And I think that frustration really came through from them, that like, guys, this is the best we can, this is what we have, no choice. Like, that's what I was reading. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. Maybe other people were getting a different sort of impression from it. But none of them wanted that thing to fail. None of them.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder what the next HasLab will be for Star Wars.
We'll see. Probably
We'll
vintage
see.
collection.
Josh says, I can't believe I paid $7.99 for the first Marvel Legends Juggernaut back in the day. Yeah, that's that was the original like Iron Man line, right? So that was like they were like just on cards with like blisters um and I think even like the Avengers when those came out in 2012, those were like $13.99 or $12.99, something like that, if I remember correctly. Prices have certainly changed. Um, I don't know. The experience of opening a Mezco Rumble Society is pretty freaking cool.
Yeah, I've tried Mezco. It's just not the line for me. I had Wolverine, I had Ash from Evil Dead. I had two different Captain Americas, and the cloth goods just is not my thing. I don't trust it over time. I don't trust the sort of printing on the suits. And they look amazing, and there are a lot of photographers out there who make them look incredible, but I just don't trust the materials.
Yeah, it's and I still think that a lot of them look like they're wearing pajamas, like the superheroes.
Yeah, the cloth really does not scale well. It's whenever you see like a joint, and you get the bunching up and the joints and stuff, it does not scale well. And then
Yeah,
you
and
run
like
into weird characters like Spider-Man, where it's like, from here up, it's plastic glove, and then it's fabric and whatever. And the head is plastic, but the body is cloth, and
yeah.
it's a weird mix. It works good on some characters, like Conan looks amazing, even though he has like almost no clothing on whatsoever. And some characters it just doesn't work that great on.
Right. Now I did order the Michael Keaton Batman. I made an exception there. Maybe one day they'll actually send it to me.
Maybe you'll get that someday.
Gotta love clones. Speaking of cost, are you going to build the full Cantina band in TVC or the Black Series? Certainly in TVC, because I can actually put that on a shelf and it will take up a reasonable amount of space. And actually, I'm just replacing the previous Cantina band figures, so that's not going to really affect what my space. But Black Series, I'd have to make a whole like thing of for 7 band members. That's a good amount of real estate, so I don't know about that. What do you think about the Mattel Dreadnoughtus? Dan, have you seen this one? This is the new sauropod that's coming out pretty soon from the Mattel Jurassic World line.
I've not seen that yet. No.
So it's in the same vein of the Brachiosaurus and the Apatosaurus, which they're really big, hulking. Which, considering how big they are and how nice they look, only $50, which is kind of wild. But it's kind of one of those things. It's a big sauropod dinosaur, and it's going to be
Okay.
coming
Yep.
later in the year.
Yeah, I don't really collect the Jurassic Park line, but every time I see those big dinosaurs, actually, I have a T-Rex. So I grabbed one of those. I saw it on clearance for like $10, and I was like, I can't not buy this. It eats action figures. So I grabbed one of those. And I thought that was gonna get me in on all the big ones, but I never saw any of the other ones clearanced. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to stay away from these. But that yeah, the Brachiosaurus and whatever, any of the really big ones are very, very tempting.
Yeah, yeah, they are. And the Brachiosaurus, I think, still like the best one. That line is still amazes me. I mean, they've barely changed the prices in the 4 years since it's come out, and I can't figure out why everybody else's toys go up in price, but Mattel's very consistent with their Jurassic line. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Very unusual. Greg says Dreadnoughtus is 5 feet long. Okay, well, maybe I might have to rethink rethink that one.
Sheesh.
Holy cow. Yeah, okay, that's almost as tall as me. That's yeah, that's big. That's very big. All right, so Dan, what would you say if you were thinking about the toy lines that are doing it best at this point, 2022? What are a couple toy lines would you say are doing the best job just overall in terms of everything, design, engineering, production, logistics of getting it to customer, all that stuff?
It's hard to say generally for collectors in general. I know what's working for me. What's working for me right now is GI Joe. I'm always been a big GI Joe fan. I'm not completing that line. I'm not trying to get all the figures, but it is certainly the one that I'm most excited about. New reveals and new acquisitions. The bats and the alley vipers to me was like just music. It was perfect. I love those figures so much. I bought 5 of each of them. But for all their faults, I do think Hasbro is still doing a really great job with just about everything that they do. Prices suck across the board, but that's just the reality of the situation these days. Beyond that, it's a real tough question to answer. I'll be honest. I don't know. You know, I run into the same problems with every company, but every company is producing stuff that I like right now. I've picked up figures from Jazzwares. I picked up figures from Mattel. I picked up figures from Hasbro. In imports, I have my Mafex Book of Boba Fett sitting next to me here. There's just a lot of good stuff out there. So it's hard for me to say anyone in particular.
Okay. I got one for you. Why can't Mattel figure out how to make 6-inch figures?
I don't know. I don't know. I'm sure there's some people at that company working real hard and doing their best and trying, but I don't know.
Totally.
I don't know. They could not figure out DC, I don't know what they're doing. Ninja Turtles right now. Who knows?
The Jurassic stuff only lasted
Yeah, I
3.
picked up who did I get? I got Ian Malcolm. And I think that was the only one I got. I was kind of like, I'm not a huge Jurassic Park fan. I liked having that figure. I thought it had some personality, looked pretty good. But after that, I was like, I don't need the rest of these.
It's interesting. Yeah. And now the DC's a McFarlane, of course, because it wasn't doing too well.
I think there's some behind the scenes going on at Mattel that we don't know about yet. I just saw an article, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, about the potential that Mattel is actually going to be sold here soon. So, usually in advance of a corporate sale like that, there's a lot of bookkeeping cleanup and let's try to make everything look as good as possible so we have a lot of money in, not a lot of money out.
Oh.
So who knows what's going on behind the scenes right now? Certainly not. I don't.
The old Hasbro's going to buy Mattel, or Mattel's going to buy Hasbro.
No, I don't think it's going to be
Instead of
that. I don't think it's going to be one company buying the other. I think it's just going to be investors. You'll probably see a group of investors, just like Funko is getting bought by like 3 different. It's like eBay and 2 other investors and whatever.
Oh, wow. That's You always wonder, like, what is it? Is that going to make things better? Are things going to suffer? Like, I guess we just never know.
We'll
Just never
see.
know. We will see. All right. So I think you spoke a little bit about this already, Dan, but obviously we live in an ever changing and evolving world, and the ramifications, are obviously felt in the toy industry, and then that's passed along to the customer, whether those ramifications are intentional or not. Where do you see things going for the toy industry in 3, 5, 10 years?
I think a lot of that is going to depend on, like I was saying earlier, geopolitical stuff, the cost of the materials, what is it going to take to keep making this stuff. I think the international markets are different from the US markets. I think what people are buying is different. Not completely different, obviously. These action figures are action figures. Takara has, sales in Japan. They have sales here. But I think a lot of it's going to depend on the price of the materials, is going to partially dictate what toys look like, how big they are, how much stuff they come with, how functional they are. And then, yeah, as collectors age up, is there a generation to replace the generation that is going to be getting to the point where they're just not buying stuff anymore? They're parents and grandparents and whatever, and you don't have those 8 to 10-year-olds becoming 15 to 18-year-olds to start spending the money on that kind of stuff to continue to drive that industry. I don't want to be all doom and gloom and this is the end, buy two because you're never going to see it again. I don't want to say that. And as much as things have evolved in the direction of kids not playing with action figures as much as we used to, there could be circumstances that we don't know about that change that in the next couple of years. Who knows? Maybe they just all get bored of Minecraft and Roblox and whatever else. But I think honestly the safe answer is we continue to see the progression of what's happening now. A greater and even greater degree of hyper specification, hyper targeting of specific brands and specific licenses to a very, very specific, increasingly smaller group of consumers, and eventually, it's gonna lapse. I don't know what future GI Joe has beyond the next 5, 6 years. Star Wars, I think, is something that's going to last. Star Wars and Transformers seem to, perennially, and Ninja Turtles be the most healthy brands that seem to be able to keep, reinventing themselves and finding new audiences and finding a way to turn that over. I don't know what the sales numbers are on that new Lego Star Wars release game, but I'm guessing that's going to be a pretty profitable thing. Because that reaches such a wide demographic. It's the Lego audience, and that audience
Mhm.
is kids to adults. It's gaming, and that's kids to adults. It's Star Wars, that's kids to adults. So that I guess you'll probably start to see a lot more of that.
Totally.
Virtual toy and action filter building.
For sure. Do you foresee a time when, as you're saying, collectors are going to continue aging and, moving on? All the stuff that we're collecting and fighting over now, because there's, in some cases, there's not a lot of it to go around, or it's just very popular. A time in, I don't know, 20, 25 years where everybody just tries to sell everything and then the market's flooded. Nobody wants it because the younger generations aren't buying it. And it's basically just like something that was great, but now it's like Beanie Babies. It's just like nobody cares.
I think the better comparison there, Beanie Babies is a weird fad that, just lit the world on
Yeah,
fire for like a year or two and
you're
then
right.
just
That's true.
absolutely burned itself out. There's a great documentary about that if you haven't watched it yet. I can't remember if it's on might be on Netflix, if it's still there. That really talks about the weird manipulation that went into creating that fad, and then that went into keeping it rolling the way it was, and who was profiting from it and what was actually happening there. I think the better comparison is looking back to the toys of like the 60s. My parents were both born in 1950, so they would have been 10 years old in 1960. The kinds of stuff that they grew up with, that their generation was still into as adults. My wife and I used to go to a lot of auctions, and what happens at a lot of auctions is you get properties that are being cleared out by the families of people who have passed away. That's the best way the nicest way to put it. So you have these like estate sales, these kinds of things. And, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when we were really going to a lot of auctions, what you were seeing a lot of was train collections, just HO scale, N scale, dioramas, rails, just these boxes and boxes and boxes of the kinds of tracks and the electronics components and, little trees and little cars and little buses and stuff and all of these things. And initially they were selling for quite a bit because there was still a pretty strong collector's market. But over the period of several years, we started to see more and more of these lots going for less and less and less and less because so many of these collections, because people were, expiring, so many of these collections were coming out onto the market. And one, there was this influx of product that was overwhelming the number of people who were actually still interested. And two, there just weren't as many people interested anymore. And that I think we can see in, we were talking about the sort of first releases of Black Series. Go to eBay right now and check the prices on the first release of Farm Boy Luke. You could probably get you probably get like $5 for $1 or something. Nobody wants them anymore. There's too many of them. And I think, in the next, decade, we're going to start to see more and more of that as people just move on and say, I can't do this collecting thing anymore. I'm going to pare down to just the core of my collection. And there's just going to be this huge influx of stuff out there. And that next generation isn't necessarily super excited about buying any of it,
Yeah, it's interesting to ponder. No, that makes a lot of good sense. Do you ever foresee a time when, these prices, obviously they're going up and up and up and up, and, people are dropping out. Do you ever see a time that, or do you think it would ever make sense at some point for action figures to be produced in the US and just for like considering costs associated with like transporting stuff and freight and stuff sitting at the ports, as we've become accustomed to in recent years? Do you think it would ever make sense financially and just logistically for them to be produced in the US at some point?
Honestly, I don't know enough about that sort of back end of it to know if that is feasible. I would guess it might become more feasible as quantities go down. I just don't think the logistical, the logistics exist in the US to be able to produce that kind of stuff. Anybody that I've talked to about, doing that kind of stuff usually says, I looked, I looked all over the US and Canada and Mexico, and there just isn't anybody to, set up to do that kind of work at that scale. And it's just more affordable and faster to produce it at the facilities that exist either in China or, Hasbro's doing a lot of stuff in Vietnam now. It just sort of moves around to the country with, the worst working conditions and worst protections for their workers. I don't know if that's true. It's probably true, but whatever.
Right.
Whatever can keep those costs down as much as possible. So I just, without a huge investment in the actual, factories and the materials to be able to produce that kind of stuff, and the complicity of the consumer agreeing to pay more because they're going to cost more. It's just the nature of US manufacturing is that it will cost more. Something that was made in China might cost $10. It's going to be $25 in the US. If it's $25 coming out of China, it's going to be $40 in the US.
Yeah, that makes good sense. So, Dan, I assume you saw a little trailer that came out this week.
Yes, Obi-Wan, I assume is what you're talking about.
Yes,
yeah, I wore my Darth Maul shirt for it.
Yeah, your vintage Darth Maul. Isn't it weird that like Power of the Force era stuff's like vintage now? To me, that's weird. But...
It's weird, yeah.
Yeah. So, what are your thoughts? What do you think about this latest?
I'm excited for it. I've enjoyed. There's no media that is produced now, whether we're talking about Star Wars or Marvel or whatever. There is no such thing as like perfect media. It doesn't exist. It's not a thing. So, for me, all of these shows, they always get me excited. I watch them all and I find my own enjoyment from them. Was there things in Boba Fett I didn't like? Of course there were. Were the things I liked a lot? Absolutely. So, I am very excited to see Ewan McGregor back in that role. Um, it's one of the most disappointing things about Star Wars for me has been that there was such a gap between the release of Return of the Jedi and anything with those original cast members in it. Like we had decades without them in anything. And then we went to the prequels, which made it a whole extra decade before we would even see any of them in anything again. And that was very sad for someone who grew up with the original trilogy. So to be able to take advantage of the fact that Ewan McGregor is still alive and still acting and still doing stuff, to get him back in the role is a very exciting thing. And I hope that they give him something to work with. I hope he has a good script. I hope he's got, haven't really been paying attention to who's directing, but I hope some of those directors from, Boba Fett and Mandalorian have come over. If not, I hope they find people who are just as good and just as capable and exciting. So I'm excited to see it, even though I'm expecting that some of it is going to be super dumb and I'm going to hate it. I'm just hoping it's balanced out by things that I liked.
Yeah, no, that's a good point though. I'm glad they're not waiting another 15, 20 years to use Ewan McGregor. He's still, he's still able to do it. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I wonder sometimes about, what the sequel trilogy would have been like if they had made those movies, 10 years before
Yeah.
they made them. I mean, it's
10 years or 20 years or 30 years. Yeah.
yeah, any of the above.
I get it. The things have changed. Everything's changing. Like back when the original trilogy came out, actors were very, very afraid of getting stuck in roles. They were afraid of getting typecast because there was no future in that. You didn't want to just play one role for the rest of your life. Now it's job security. Now if you're an actor, it's like, can you hook me up? Can you get me in a Marvel role so I have that security? And between films, I'm going to go do all this other stuff. That's something that I think a lot of actors are trying to get. They're trying to secure. So I don't blame, Harrison Ford there's ample documentation of how much Harrison Ford was like, will you please kill Han Solo? I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
He did not want to come back for Return of the Jedi. That's
Totally.
well documented. But would Mark Hamill have come back for a Luke Skywalker TV show? I don't know. Probably. Would Carrie Fisher have played Princess Leia a couple more times? I don't know. Maybe. Who knows? It's really hard to say. Maybe they wouldn't have been interested at all, and that's just me being a fan, hoping for the best and dreaming about something that could never happen. But yeah, it's interesting to see that Ewan McGregor is going to get another shot at this character and further cement himself as the Obi-Wan, that people know and love.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for it. I think, when they started announcing, the projects that they were working on, like this has always been the one that I've been most interested in. So I have high hopes, but I'm trying to temper those expectations a little bit because you just never know. You just never know. There could always, like you're saying, be something that's great and then something that's like just off the wall, silly and ridiculous. But I guess that's what Star Wars ultimately is at the end of the day.
Yeah, and it's obviously I joke a lot about canon. Is it canon? This sort of thing. But at a certain
Power
point,
Rangers movie.
Yeah, at a certain point, creators need some freedom to be able to do what's right for whatever particular story that they're telling at the time. You and I could sit here with chat and figure out exactly what events need to happen in this series based on the specific time and the point in the timeline that it's at. Okay, well, in Rebels, we know that Darth Maul shows up here and this conflict happens at this point, and then here he is at this point with Vader and he references this other thing, so we could piece all that together. But you need to let them just tell an interesting story and do whatever they need to do with it, and I think we're already seeing that with costume design and the characters that have been teased and all of that stuff.
Yep. Do you think we'll see Dexter Jetster?
Maybe. I don't know what the over under on that is. I haven't seen the line.
Yeah, Yeah, I know. I avoid the
Yeah,
spoilers,
I'm curious
but
to see, how much are we going to spend on Tatooine, and are they going to just try to get him off Tatooine immediately? That would be the best thing. Just get him off Tatooine. There's our Luke cameo. Now get off Tatooine.
yeah, especially after that last series, which a lot of Tatooine, basically a lot of Tatooine, which I love Tatooine. I think in terms of Star Wars, it's probably my favorite planet just
Yeah,
because of all the stuff that we've gotten on Tatooine. But yeah, I think we could use a little bit of a break from Tatooine. It's sand, it's coarse, it's rough, it gets everywhere. So.
well, it's just not going to be a very exciting show if it's literally just Obi-Wan lamenting all of his bad
Well,
decisions
yeah,
and talking to
that's true.
Yoda once a month, through the Force, spying on Luke like a creeper.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking of all the memes that came up after that, with him looking at different
With the
things.
binoculars. Yeah.
Those are funny. Um, yeah, so lots of Star Wars content to come. I'm interested to see how, all these variables, the increase in prices, the plastic-free packaging, and, all this stuff is going to affect, the amount of product that's being produced, 18 months, after the show comes out, of course, because there's no other way to do it. Um, but it'll be interesting to see as time goes on.
Absolutely.
For sure. So I just want to get your quick thoughts. I'm sure you've seen Ghostbusters Afterlife and the Batman.
Nope. Neither one of
Really?
them.
Oh wow.
I sit in this weird spot where it's like, we do so much with nostalgia and all of these old properties and stuff, and talking about the history and whatever. But on my own personal level, I'm not really that into that part of it. It's like, and I know I'm sitting here talking about GI Joe and Star Wars. I'm wearing this Darth Maul shirt and whatever, but it's like there's stuff outside that. Like I watched Ghostbusters when it came out. I saw Ghostbusters 2 when it came out, but I was never like a Ghostbusters fan. So there was no part of me that ever needed that series to come back. So I still haven't seen the other Ghostbusters movie with, the all girl crew and whatever. Like I saw the conflict over it and whatever, but I was just like, I'm just not a Ghostbusters fan. So I didn't really care that much about it. So I don't even have an opinion on whether or not it was good or should have been made or whatever. It's just like, it is just a thing that happened. So Afterlife happens and it's like, okay, are they course correcting? Is this an appeal to my generation and the nostalgia and stuff and whatever? It's like, ultimately, it doesn't matter to me because I still am just like, I don't need to see another Ghostbusters movie. I don't need it. And Batman kind of hits that same point for me where it's like, I liked the Christian Bale Batman. I know it has a real bad rap online and everybody's like, oh, doing their Batman impressions and stuff. And it's like, I enjoyed them. Dark Knight Returns was an amazing film, and I don't like make all the Bane jokes you want. I don't care. I enjoyed that movie. I liked it a lot. I liked the whole series. I liked the character arc. Is it flawed? Yeah, there's no perfect media. you know.
Right.
So the Batman comes out, and I've got HBO Max, and I was like, all right, it's coming out. I'm gonna watch it. The trailers haven't really wowed me. But I'm hearing some good stuff, and the reviews started to come out, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna check it out. And I sat down and I was like, 3 hours? What? I don't have 3 hours for this. So I watched the first half hour and I was like, maybe I'll get back to it. I don't know. So I haven't finished it yet. I'm 1/6 of the way through it. Don't spoil the ending for me. Don't tell me
Don't
Batman
worry.
dies.
I won't tell you that Batman is Bruce Wayne. Oh, sorry.
Okay, thank you.
um, no, yeah, no, that makes sense. I enjoyed both. I think I like the Batman better, and like you say, there's so many iterations of Batman, especially, right? I mean, I'm thinking of all the actors that I still love Michael Keaton as Batman, like when I think of Batman
Me
like
too,
that,
sure.
but the Nolan films were awesome. I enjoyed every one of them, and I really like this one. I felt like it was a return to form for what Batman should be. The the Justice League and like Snyderverse didn't really do it for me personally.
Yeah, me neither.
And I
Yeah.
feel like this worked a lot better.
Yeah. And that's the hard part is that everybody has their, what that character means to me. For me, I liked Batman 89 when it came out. I went through a period of absolutely hating it and thinking it was just awful. And then I've come back around to loving it again. Like I hate the Joker. Like, I despise the Joker as a character. And no pun intended, anybody who's like, I love the Joker, I've got a Joker tattoo. I'm like, you're a clown. And I know that's not nice. And I'm sorry, but I just hate the Joker so much. It seems like such a two-dimensional character to me. And the fascination with the Joker and Harley Quinn and stuff, I just don't understand. And that's just me. That's my thing. But Jack Nicholson as the Joker in '89, I was like, this is terrible. He's not funny. I don't get it. It is like people laughing, and I'm like, what are you laughing at? This is not funny. And then I get it now. I enjoy his performance now. I get the subtleties and all that stuff. But at the same time, Heath Ledger. I love Heath Ledger's Joker, and the what that character should be and what I want to see out of the character. It's so across the board. You could tell me right now what these core three things need to be in a Batman film for it to feel like Batman for me. And I would come up with three completely different things. And how are the movie producers supposed to square that? Which of those six things are they going to try to actually include in the film? It's tough. And so we're at this weird place of media where none of these brands are ever going to go away. None of these characters or intellectual properties are ever going to stop. They're just going to keep reinventing them based on new data. What are people into now? What do they want to see now? Can we go back to nipples on the bat suit? Is it too early? Can we do that again? How's the crowd feeling about this? Or you can have multiple Batmans in existence at the same time. You can have your dark, grim, and gritty, serious Batman over here, but then you can check out HBO Max and watch the different animated series and watch. There's a kids version and there's this other version and Earth 12 and Earth 72 and whatever else. So, this version of Batman, looking at it, watching the first half hour, I'm like, this isn't my Batman. This isn't the Batman that I want to spend 3 hours with, but I might be missing a great movie. Maybe we'll find out at some point. I don't know, but mostly I'm just not ready for another Batman because I'm so tired of Batman. Like, just go away for a while, please.
I hear you there. I think that was one of the great things about like the Dark Knight trilogy was that we had gone so long without Batman. And I mean, maybe not even because like Batman and Robin was 97 and Batman Begins was 2005. But I mean, it was just such a total change from what, those last couple of movies were in the 90s that, it just really refreshed and reinvigorated Batman. And then 2012, and then just a couple of years later they announced Batman v Superman. It's like, whoa,
so we're stuck on the wheel, and I think sometimes you just got to say, I'm gonna step off for a little while. I'm gonna wait. I'll catch the next Batman. Thanks.
Yeah, well, if you finish it, let me know how you like it, because I thought it was really, really enjoyable.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about Toy Galaxy. What is the latest going on over at Toy Galaxy, Dan?
We're on vacation. We're on vacation because we 7 years into this thing, and we've never really taken a break. We spent 6 solid years posting 3 times a week, every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. I don't remember what our updates were. Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, I think was our updates. Just a long time, and we needed a break. When we switched over to just doing history of videos on the main channel, it's a different kind of production. Like, for me to do a 4 minutes or less review, I can write that in like an hour. I can do those pretty quickly. But to do a history of video is a very long research process and writing. It's a different kind of writing. It's a lot more journalistic. We have to fact check and even still some stuff gets through. So we went from doing videos that we could shoot 2 in a day, and then I do a booth video, to it takes us 4 days to prep and to shoot, to edit, and all this stuff. And obviously, we have made deliberate decisions to grow the channel so that we are getting more views, getting more subscribers, and that all comes with its own pressures. And Greg and I really were just like, what, we really need a break. How do we take a break? you know, you're slave to the algorithm, and YouTube doesn't want you to ever stop posting, you know, or it's just
Right.
going to not put, serve your videos up to people anymore. So we spent January, February, March, April, basically, really grinding and grinding and grinding, trying to get ahead on videos so that we could take a little break. So the most current video there is the Saturday morning marathon, which is kind of a little bit of a cheat. It's a little bit of a clip show, but we're not the first ones to throw up compilation videos. In fact, YouTube loves compilation videos right now. They love 2-hour long videos. Anything that's going to keep eyeballs, glued to the screens longer. They love that. So we put there's a couple of those together, as well as several new videos to get us through the month of May, and then we'll be back strong at it again for June, doing the same thing, trying to explore these things that things that you forgot, things that you never heard of, and trying to find our way to tell these stories that is informative and entertaining. And it's not a comprehensive coverage of that thing, but we think we give you everything that you really need to know about
Yeah.
those properties.
I would totally agree. I mean, everything on Toy Galaxy is quality. Everything is fun and it's informative. And I think essentially what most of your videos are is like mini documentaries about these various shows and toy lines, and I think that's really reinvigorating. And I know a lot of the time, like I used to focus a lot on toy reviews, and I'm thinking back to like 2013 when I started the channel, and there weren't that many people doing like reviews back then. But like over time that really changed. And now like everybody does reviews. So it's, you always kind of think to yourself, like, what can I do different? And then
Yeah.
sometimes people just say, hey, I want reviews. I want to see more reviews. Why aren't you doing reviews anymore? But it's just that thing, like, it's YouTube is just such a crazy thing. It evolves the algorithms, like you're saying. And yeah, it's hard to pinpoint exactly.
Yeah, it's a grind. It's a grind. And, starting out, it seems pointless. We started in April of 2015, and, we tracked our daily subscriber pickups. You go 3, 4, 5 days without getting a single new subscriber, and then you get 2 in one day, and you're like, it's taken off. Like, I finally
Yeah.
broke the code with my last video. It's like, what did I do differently? I have no idea. It's just it's a tough thing. And yeah, it's very easy for anybody to throw up a review of anything right now. And the
Mhm.
philosophy that we started with was, we're never going to be the first review. We might not even be the 10th review that somebody watches. We're never going to be able to be the ones that get the figure first. I don't know how some of these channels do it. I don't know why you do it. I'm
Oh,
not
I
you
do.
personally. I don't know why people do it. Like, you have to be spending a lot of money to for what? Like, you throw it up a day before everybody else, and so you get 5,000 more views. Was it worth whatever you paid for that figure? Because now you're gonna have to do it again. you
Yeah.
know. So I've never really understood chasing that kind of angle as far as doing reviews are concerned. So we always just wanted to do something that people would say, okay, I watched 5 other reviews of this. Now I'm going to go watch and see what Dan has to say about it, because he's going to have something different. He's going to present it a different way. Greg's going to do something funny with the edit, and it's going to be a different kind of thing. And that's really where we always came from. It was more from entertainment value than it was from, look, here's how the knee bends. I don't know. That's get that from
Yeah.
someone.
Right on. No, I mean, it's all fantastic, content, and hours upon hours of entertainment on the channel. And no, congrats on the success of Toy Galaxy, and to you and producer Greg. And just huge fan of everything you guys have done. And I seriously doubt that anybody hanging out with us is unaware of Toy Galaxy. But if for some reason they are, we have links in the description to the socials, to the YouTube channel, to everything's down there. So be sure that you are following Dan in Toy Galaxy. Um,
Thank you very much.
of course. And Dan, where else can our viewers and followers go to find you on the interwebs?
Honestly, the best place, we're on YouTube. Greg and I are both on Twitter. I'm Toy Galaxy Dan. He's Toy Galaxy TV. Do not mix those up. If you are sending him pictures of action figures, he'll block you. If you're sending me, if you're trying to talk to me about horror movies, I'm going to block you. I don't care. So Horror stuff goes to Toy Galaxy TV. Action figure stuff goes to Toy Galaxy Dan. I'm on Instagram, Toy Galaxy, but the other place that we are posting a lot of original stuff that's not accessible anywhere else, exclusive stuff, is on Patreon, patreon.com/Toy Galaxy. It's we're updating there pretty regularly, and behind the scenes videos, ad free access. If you're tired of sitting through the 1 minute sponsorships and all the eBay ads, all the YouTube ads and all that stuff, $2 a month gets you in on our base tier, and you get ad-free access to all our videos. And they usually come out on Mondays instead of Thursdays. And then just lots of other stuff. We have a series of videos that focuses on videos that we have deactivated over the years. They're sort of lost videos. Greg, just like with a toy collection, Greg will regularly go through and cull videos out of our library because they just don't have any views on them. So we'll just bury them. Nobody's watching them anyway. So we'll pull them out of the catalog. But then some of that stuff will come up on the back end. We do a monthly podcast on there called the Galaxy Digest, and lots of other stuff. Yeah, Mike Templeton just mentioned that there's a active Discord. We have a pretty active Discord in there too. It's so active that I can't keep up with it. I try to keep up, but I just can't. So
Yeah,
so
Discord
definitely
is
check that out too.
right on. Cool. Discord is very confusing. I still haven't figured out Discord.
It's not so much that it's confusing, it's just that it's active. There's several people in there that are it's great. It's great conversation, and we've got talk about games and talk about comics and talk about toys and world events and all kinds of other stuff, and I'm just like, I can't keep up, there's too much conversation.
Right on. So what do you say we make one last pass here at the comments and see if there's any questions that we missed or anything interesting in here. So I think I saw a couple of questions for you, Dan. So Bill's asking, what is your favorite vintage line, say from the 70s and 80s?
I do like Star Wars, but percentage of my collection has to go to 1980s, Real American Hero, G.I. Joe. I just have so many, just so many figures from that. I don't know that I have every single figure that was released, but I have a lot between the vintage line and the 25th, 30th anniversary stuff. Just it has to be my all-time favorite line, whether I want to admit it or not. It has to be based on the quantity of figures I have in my collection.
Right on.
And that's not counting the Boba set, of course.
Not kind of the Boba set. Jason says, I think there's a toy industry to the comic book industry where things are now seen as investments instead of what they are, toys.
I think there's room for both. I do both. I have absolutely purchased things, including HasLabs, with the intent of that being an investment, for sure. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. There's no right or wrong way to collect. Collecting is, it's whatever you want it to be. TCS says, if you knew that there were 50 years left, still toy collecting, like
50 years in my life, or 50 years worth of planet Earth? If there's only 50 years left on planet Earth, I'm probably not collecting anything anymore. I guess if there's only 50 years in my life, who knows? Same
answer for me. Yeah. I don't even want to think that far ahead, to be honest. So Jason says, I hope the last episode doesn't do it. Revenge of the Sith. I think is referring to Obi-Wan. Didn't hurry as everyone to their A New Hope positions. Yeah. I hope they've learned a lesson there, because I feel like with Rebels, they kind of tied up some stuff that maybe would have been cool to see in live action, and hopefully they kind of don't box themselves in so much.
Yeah.
Here's something about the Top Gun trailer. Dan, we were talking about this before we went live. Note the Top Gun trailer I saw at Doctor Strange last night got me extremely hyped for it.
I'm excited for it. I'm also, like I said, it occupies such a weird place in my heart nostalgically that I'm kind of worried about it, because it's just, it is a mythic thing to me, because it has ties to my dad and my family and growing up and what I wanted to be when I was an adult and all this other stuff. And so many of these kinds of sequels that revisit properties like that, it's like, oh, that guy who was your hero is now this weird old washed up crazy person, It's like, well, I don't want him to be a weirdo, washed up, crazy person. I want him to still be a hero. I understand why people were upset about the handling of Luke Skywalker in the sequel trilogy. I thought it was good storytelling. I was fascinated by it. I was interested in it. I think we still got to the point where he was the hero at the end. But I totally understand the backlash to it, and I don't want to feel that way about Maverick. Just blow him up and let's be done with it.
Yeah, they had the premiere here the other night. I think it was on Thursday.
Yeah, I'm trying to avoid everything, but that Lady Gaga video was kind of spoilery.
I haven't seen it yet. I'll have to look at it right as soon as we wrap here. I gotta go check that out. Alex says, Dan, will you be going to Star Wars Celebration?
I will not. No, not for any particular reason. I just not going. I've never been.
The only one I went to, I am going for one day, but the only one I went to before was Celebration 4 in 2007, which obviously ages ago. And that one, the only thing I can really say that was cool about that one was that I ended up ordering hot dogs with Carrie Fisher in the cafeteria, but that was just totally an accident. And I didn't even realize it was her initially, as weird as that sounds.
Oh, man.
But hey, it's a cool story. It's a memory.
Yeah, I was walking. I was at Wizard World Chicago in 1999, I think it was, and I was just outside, walking back to my hotel, and I didn't realize the guy that was in front of me was Anthony Daniels until I heard him talk, and then I was like, "Oh, that's C-3PO."
Yeah, Ted Ringer once you hear that voice. Ed says Nolan trilogy is overrated.
Overrated. If you pulled the internet, I think you'd find that it's underrated.
Yeah, if anything, I would agree with that. Great stuff on the Toy Galaxy Patreon. Right on. Cool. So I think this pretty well covers it. So Dan, tremendous thanks again for coming on to Cantina Social Hour. It's been a blast talking to you and hearing your thoughts on the current state of the toy industry and plastic-free packaging and Top Gun and the Batman and all the other range of topics that we covered. Thanks again for coming on this evening.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you to chat for hanging out and chatting and asking questions and just having some fun.
Totally. Thanks to everybody who's joined us this evening. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your questions and comments. Once again, links are in the description, and go check out Toy Galaxy if you haven't already. I'm sure you have, but if you haven't already, links are in there. Follow Dan on social as well. That is all in the description. We'll be back next Friday. Dan, thanks again. Hopefully we can do this again sometime. Absolutely. And we'll be tuned in to Toy Galaxy.
Thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody.
Right. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.